Welcome to the very first episode of Weighing In with Lindsay. I can't tell you how excited, and okay, a little nervous, I am to finally be doing this. This is going to be a space where we talk about health, humor, and just a dash of chaos. Because let's be real, it's never just about the number on the scale. Life always finds a way to sneak into the weigh-in. So who am I? Well, I'm Lindsay. At my heaviest, I weighed 435 pounds. Saying that number out loud still feels wild, but honesty is where we're starting. My struggle with weight goes back to when I was a kid. My mom got sick with cancer, and I didn't exactly have the emotional toolkit to deal with that. When she passed away, food stepped in as my BFF. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Because what do people do when a family is grieving? They bring food. Casseroles, pies, that one mystery dish that no one knows what's in it, but somehow disappears anyway. Comfort food really does comfort. Nothing says sorry for your loss like 6 pans of lasagna. Next came a stepmom, some bullying, moving to Alabama, forced diets, and parents who were heavy drinkers. And yeah, it was a recipe for a complicated relationship with food. I became the kid who snuck Little Debbie's and chips like they were contraband. And my dad would sometimes leave Skittles and a Coke on my bed as a surprise. And listen, I was thrilled, but let's just say it wasn't exactly a health plan. High school gave me a couple of amazing friends. Shout out to Paige, who sent my first podcast fan mail, and to my girl Lily, Paige's daughter. But even with great friends, food was still my number one coping mechanism. When my dad died by suicide when I was 19, it all spiraled further. I carried guilt, low self-worth, and of course, you guessed it, more food. Fast forward, my grandmother paid for me to have gastric bypass surgery in 2013. I lost about 120 pounds, and I felt great. Started dating for the first time since high school, and then stopped focusing on my health again. That relationship, not so healthy either. Turns out, my type back then was red flags. The weight came back. And let's be honest, people always say love makes you gain weight. I think I just took that as a personal challenge. When that relationship ended, my self-worth took another hit. I once again felt like I wasn't good enough. Then I hit this weird season of life. You know, the one where you're technically an adult, but you feel like you're just improvising every day. I still feel like that a lot. Anyway, I tried dating here and there, and let me tell you, some of those dates could have been full episodes of this podcast by themselves. I once had a guy, he brought his dog to dinner. And don't get me wrong, I love dogs. But I was completely surprised when we finished eating, and then he asked me if I wanted to meet his dog who was waiting in the car. Another guy had me convinced, briefly, that he was the greatest. I mean, our first date was at church. But when there's a few weeks, he started talking about moving in together. So I started doing a little digging and learned that he wasn't quite what he portrayed. And he was homeless. No wonder he was in such a hurry. In between the dating disasters, I kept cycling through diets and fresh starts, keto, calorie counting, Mondays that never came, gym memberships I never used. If it was out there, I probably tried it. And each time I told myself, this is it. This time it will stick. But without dealing with the emotional side of things, nothing stuck. I was carrying all the baggage from my past, just in different size pants. But here's the good part. All of that trial and error taught me a lot about what I actually wanted, not just in health, but in life. I realized I didn't want somebody who only cared about what I looked like or what size I was. I wanted someone who saw me, mess and all. And then in 2019, I met my husband. You'll meet him in the next episode. And from the beginning, it just felt different. He laughed at my jokes, and he supported me without trying to fix me. That was huge for me after everything I'd been through. Then, of course, 2020 hit. COVID. I got really sick. I ended up on oxygen and barely moving. And when you mix inactivity with already struggling to stay healthy, the weight piled on fast. Not only was food an issue, but I had started drinking too. Before I knew it, I'd hit my heaviest weight, 435 pounds. That was a hard reality check. Recently, I had revision surgery, a duodenal switch. I had the surgery on April 4th, 2025, and I thought all went well. Until late on Saturday, I started experiencing extreme pain in my lower stomach. The nursing staff tried to tell me it was gas and I should walk it off. So I tried. I really tried. But the pain just kept getting worse. So I cried and I cried. I questioned what I had done. I was begging God to take the pain away. I asked my husband to lay hands on me and pray. It was a very long night. Early Sunday morning, my surgeon came to check on me, and he quickly determined that I had a bile leak, and I was rushed back to surgery. That was followed by a night in the ICU and another week in the hospital. When I returned home, I was not able to eat or drink anything without getting pretty sick. So that was a long 4 or 5 weeks before I finally went back and had an endoscopy to find out that the opening to my stomach was too swollen, so they had to dilate it. After that, I finally was able to start returning to normal eating and drinking, well, normal for after surgery anyway. It's not been easy. It's not been perfect. And food addiction doesn't disappear just because you alter your anatomy. And that's exactly what this show is about. Being real about the messy, funny, frustrating, and hopeful parts of the journey. Because I know I'm not the only one. Everyone is juggling something. Whether it's trying to get healthier, overcome an addiction, read more, find a better job, everybody has a struggle. Life keeps throwing curveballs. Sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's cheesecake. Either way, you're not alone. I'm here. So here's a little story about how my life has changed since April. The other day, I was rocking a new pair of Hokas. They're amazing for my ankles, but the soles are so thick they make me feel like I'm walking on marshmallows. And in this case, that's not a good thing. I went to step up on the curb outside the auto parts store, misjudged it completely, and boom, down I went. Now, a few months ago, I'd have wanted to call the fire department to come hoist me up with a crane, and I would have been mortified. But this time, I got up with just a little help from my husband. I walked in like nothing happened, and the clerk actually thanked me for waking them up. I tried to joke about my acrobatics, and then my teeth almost popped out. Yes, I had dentures. So basically, I failed at falling and failed at joking. It's not easy being me, but at least it's entertaining. Okay. Before I wrap up this first episode, I thought I'd do something fun, kind of like a little Q&A. These are either real questions people have asked me or questions I imagine they're thinking but are too polite to say out loud. Number 1, do you miss food? Of course I do. I have a food addiction. I have dealt with it for years. Food has been my best friend, my confidant, my comfort, the thing that I turn to when everything else seems to be going wrong or right. Because, let's face it, we celebrate with food too. So yes, I do miss it, but I am able to incorporate some food into my diet that I enjoy, and I try daily to make the healthiest decisions for my body. Number 2, do you regret having surgery? Honestly, no, I don't. Even with all the complications and the hard time I had recovering, I feel so much better now than I did a few months ago. I'm able to do more now. I started kayaking. I'm able to walk and just enjoy life a lot more than I was 6 months ago. I'm still dealing with the mental aspect of it, and that's hard. But no, I don't regret having the surgery. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity. Number 3, what's the hardest thing right now? I would say that it's the fact that my body and my brain are not in sync. While I am able to do a lot more than I was 6 months ago, in my head, I feel so much better. The depression is less, and I feel like I should be able to do even more than what I'm doing. So it is frustrating that my arthritic ankle still holds me back a little bit, or a lot of it some days. So yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, is just not being able to do all that my brain wants to do. So what can you expect from this show? Well, first, new episodes every other Wednesday. Some weeks it'll be just me checking in on where I'm at physically, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes dramatically. Other weeks, my husband or a guest will join me, and we will weigh in, pun fully intended, on health, everyday life, the struggles, the wins, and probably a few awkward stories that prove I'm human. My hope is that you leave each episode feeling a little less alone and maybe laughing with me instead of at me. But hey, I'll take either. And that's a wrap for our very first episode of Weighing In with Lindsay. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and letting me take up a little space in your earbuds. If something I said hit home or made you laugh, let me know. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Weighing In with Lindsay. And if you liked what you heard, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe even if you didn't like it. I may grow on you. Bonus points if you share with a friend who's on their own journey. I'm so glad you're here. This is just the beginning, and I cannot wait to see where this takes us. Until next time, this is Lindsay weighing in.